the one and only Simon Phillips.
been a while. Yes. Well, listen, thanks everybody for coming today. We have a very special audience here. A lot of people who I know and recognise and love and all that, and it's great to have them here. Thank you. This is the first clinic, drum show, performance, whatever you call it, of this particular tour in this year, 1991. And this is the start of it. We, haven't been doing any before this. This is the beginning. It's like the first show. This is the warm-up, right? And I asked, let's have a nice little place where we could have a warm-up, so, somewhere that nobody would remember. And it's a funny sense of humour, isn't it? I thought the British sense of humour was dry, but boy, this is this is something else. So we decided to start in Los Angeles. Well, it's better than the Musicians Institute, which was a long time. Actually, I did come here before, a long time ago, 1983, and it was a tiny little room over there somewhere, Hollywood Boulevard. And came in today and saw this and thought, oh, lovely, very nice. And here we are, and it would be great if some people came, and people did come. That's very nice, thank you. It's great. So, now it's my turn to ask you all some questions. How do you do? No. If anybody wants to, ask any questions, that's the usual question-answer time. I will certainly try and answer them as best as I can. Yes?
How do you stay so relaxed? Just, do you have any sort of mantra to stay relaxed?
Monster?
No, like mantra.
Oh, mantra.
It's like you seem so at ease with yourself, and so much is coming off of that. But when I watch you, like the camera behind you, you're completely confident. You're not tense, you're not tight.
Well, as long as you don't look at the clock, it's all right, the face,
What does happen? Like, you're consciously aware that you're at ease, and how do you do that? So cool.
Stan is asking me, how do I manage to make it look relaxed? I always love to watch a professional playing, whether it be tennis or cricket or motor racing or anything like that. It looks so easy. If you look at any professional do something well, it looks so easy. And when I was a kid and watched, wonderful drummers play like Buddy Rich, Louis Bellson, when I was that high or whatever, it just looked like they did it every day, Just, especially that sweeping the floor type stuff, to me, it's great to see somebody play and not make a meal out of it. It is, on the other hand, very hard to achieve that. When I look at myself, I think, oh my God, all the sort of contortions that one does. And I think the other thing in playing the sort of music that we play, which is a lot of volume, a lot of energy, a lot of power, it's a little bit, there's more tension in it. Whereas in a more sort of the old-fashioned way, where things were very quiet and very mellow-sounding drums and stuff, it was a lot more relaxed. Also, the audiences were much smaller. It didn't need that projection of anarchy and tension and stuff. So it's very easy to get all wound up and start playing all tight. And it's something I really try to concentrate on. And what I do, especially in drum clinics, especially this one, or any first drum clinic, I really have no idea what I can or cannot do. I know there's a couple of things which I should be able to do, but there's also a lot of things which maybe I can't do yet. After 10 clinics, I'm going to be able to do them. Because it's like, this is the perfect practice room in the world. It's a practice room with a big audience. That, to me, is the best way to practice. Sorry, this is a quite a long. I'm going into one of these big, things here. But it's all coming back to that. I will try for certain things, and if they come off, great. If they don't, and I start getting all into a bit of a pickle, I always try to remember, just hang back a little bit. Because what happens to you, to your ears, and what you're hearing is so different to what somebody hears out here. And it's something I always try to do is to relax. I've seen other players play, and I think they're much more relaxed than I am. John Heisman. I mean, I don't know if anybody's ever seen John Heisman play. His back is straight, and his arms are sort of, it's incredible. Nothing else moves. I thought, this is crazy, It's just totally, static. But it's great. I love watching a professional play, and if it's tennis or carpentry, and it just looks so easy. To me, that's what I try to achieve. Well, a little bit. Yeah. Some licks. What, more? I've just shown you everything I can do, It's 20, 30 years you've just heard. Can I see some licks, Yeah. I'll ask a few more questions, then I'll get into the licks thing. The licks thang, yes.
When you play the Mike Oldfield's album, first track, Crisis, there is this double bass drum part, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where it starts really down.
Yeah, low, yeah.
Build it up. Is there any overdub in this particular part?
No overdubs.
I always hear it, and I was wondering.
No.
What is he doing? No.
He's talking about a track called Crises on the Mike Oldfield album, called Crises. And it's the very end of, it's basically a one-side instrumental piece of music. There's a bit of singing. It's a bit of Mike actually singing. And the end is like this big sort of thing at the end with a sequencer. I mean, actually, we're talking about 1983 now. And it was an Oberheim sequencer with a delay on it. And in those days, it was still quite hip to hear all that stuff. It was great. And that's all I had in the headphones. That's as far as he'd written so far. And we did a whole drum track and then built the music around the drum track. It's great fun. But the end is this double bass drum thing. And in fact, there's a song that I'm going to attempt to play later, which is one of my new things, which actually uses a bit of that in it, right at the very end. Because it's what it is, it's a fast, double tempo bass drum thingy with a half-time backbeat. It's like real contradiction in terms, like military intelligence. It's and it's quite nice. It's part of the drum kit is really fast. The other part is real slow. But I'll show you that a bit later. That one. Any hands over here? Yes, right at the back. Depends what I'm doing. Yes-ish, yeah. On the drum kit, yes. I used to play right-handed. The question was, am I ambidextrous, right? I used to play right-handed. I was going to say official grip, orthodox grip. And the first problem, or the first nice thing that happened was rock and roll, and so that sort of turned over like this. Where's the drumstick? So the left hand, when I were a kid, was this way. And then rock and roll came into my life, and then it was sort of that way. And then after a little while, I thought, this is a really funny way to play, really, sort of one stick like that and one stick like that. So I turned it over and learnt to play like that, both sticks with that end, hitting the drums. And then the drum kit grew inevitably, as they did in the early 70s, and along came the extra bass drum, along came the extra tom-tom, you know, and then another one. And it was all looking a real mess. You know, it's like, because the hi-hat is here, the hi-hat was high, then the tom-tom was really high, and it looked horrible from the front. I thought it looked rotten, you know, and I wanted to do something about this. And a long time ago, at London Airport, believe it or not, I was doing a gig with my father, and I saw one drummer play with his left hand on the hi-hat. Right-handed kid, but the left hand was playing the hi-hat. I thought, what a strange way to play. Looks horrible, you know, typical as a 12-year-old kid would do, you know. And then I remembered this. I thought, hang on a minute, this would be really cool. If I can play with the left hand, put the hi-hat down, then the tom-tom can come down, then it starts to look like this, you know. And then I saw somebody else play like that, as I didn't realise he played like this, and that was Billy Cobham. And I first went to see him at the Rainbow in London in 1974. And I looked at him and I went, oh shit. You know, I guess everybody went like that. And, you know, and it was great. It was so hip, and I thought, that's exactly what I want to do. So I was in a band called Chopin at the time, and right at the end, just before we ran out of all money and no petrol to get to gigs, and I started swapping over and playing some of the songs like this and some the other way. And I just see how far I could get until it sort of, you know, had a bit of wheel spin, then swapped over really quickly. Because it sounds a bit weird when you're playing the offbeat on the hi-hat and on the snare drum. You know, and I sort of look around, yeah, you know, play. And I used to do this on sessions as well. I used to set the kit up very strategically, you know. A cymbal there, but also one there, just in case, you know. And it was really good fun because there were some fills that came out which I didn't mean, and I don't think anybody else sort of, they'd look at me and go, but it was all right, you know. It just worked. It was strange enough to sort of work. And the producer would sort of go, is that drum fill okay? Yeah, I think so. All right, yeah. Typical London session musician, you know. I think I could do my bit. Oh, no, right. You know? Terrible scene, really. But that's where I basically learned to play left-handed. And then I continued to play left-handed until I couldn't play right-handed anymore. I know it sounds crazy, but it really does happen. And that's why I've designed this kit to force me to play a bit of right-hand and a bit of left-handed. You know? I don't know whether it was such a smart idea in the end, but it works, you know. Yes? What? Played left-footed and right-footed? No, they always remained right-footed. Because, yeah, I didn't really swap them around, you know. The interesting thing that did happen, though, was when you play right-handed, you lead with a different foot, especially if you're playing a shuffle rhythm, because it's the only rhythm that swaps the offbeat. I'll demonstrate. It wasn't actually what I was thinking of. But what I did notice was when I swapped around the other way, I had to swap the feet around because it was very uncomfortable to do it the other way. So there are little problems you get into when you do swap round. What worked playing right-handed, suddenly, you know, you're in a, it's all, oh shit, you know, it's all like off the, and then you swap it round and it's comfortable again. And I think one of the hardest things was if you're playing like a double bass drum rhythm and you're thrashing away here and then you decide to go up there. You know? It's like, ooh. You know? It's a bit odd. But then, obviously, with practice, that irons itself out. I had to think about that one, yes. Well, I mean, I grew up, I wasn't really allowed to listen to rock music to start with. That was strictly verboten in our household. My father was a Dixieland band leader, played clarinet. I don't think he even liked Glenn Miller. I think that was too modern for him. Do you know what I mean? He had a band in the 20s, and it was like, he was really into that old, you know, Big Spider Beck and all those players, all that stuff, you know. And the only other thing they would listen to is Dvorak, Tchaikovsky. I couldn't stand that shit, especially at like 12 years old. You know, I was just starting to listen to Don Ellis, you know, Blood, Sweat and Tears, and so we had big battles. But maybe it was because the mixture of musics that I was constantly subjected to. And also my father was he was very strict, but he didn't really care about how you played it, technically, as long as it came out and sounded like that. And he was very into like textures. You know, you're using that one too much, whatever that is, you know, stop it. You know, use this. And you really had to think very hard, how the hell do you, because everybody does that, how do I not do that? Do you know what I mean? So maybe it was that situation that I was in that I really had to look a bit further. And of course the whole thing was, I mean, when I started, I added an extra tom-tom when in, I don't know, 73 or something, and it was like 3 of them, and it was great. You know, suddenly this whole thing opened out, and I always really liked the sound of a few tom-toms, you know. And of course the way I tune them is like, you know, really live, real ringing, so they're really like notes. So I always try to you know, think melodically, I suppose, especially when you play a solo. You know, to me it's nice to play a tune, really, if you can. If it doesn't sound too naff, you know, do you know what I mean? It's a very fine line, again, of being rhythmic and melodic, but not corny, you know. That's sort of the thing. Yes? I'll repeat that. When I'm playing a concert, yeah, how do I set about structuring a solo? Well, the big difference between playing a solo here and playing a solo on the road is you've got to keep the audience interested and entertained. Here, most people are musicians, so, you know, we can get really into like, you know, serious drum licks and stuff like that. On the road, it's difficult to do that. You have to keep that happening, but keep it very entertaining as well. The other thing is also in a big, you know, 60,000 stadium, what's it, you know, certain things are just not going to come out. So it's a very difficult situation. Sometimes I hate playing drum solos, you know, because I sort of think, oh, you know, especially if you're doing a tour and you've done 20 dates, I start running out of ideas. I love the first couple of nights. It's great because it's like, oh, that's nice, you know. And I really get off the sound. If I come in here and I go bang, and goes, oh, it's that sort of sound. I'm going to play like this. And each night, as a lot of us know, you get to one city, and it's like one of these air suspended domes, and everything goes, you know, it's just like a horrible sticky sound, you know. And so you play differently. Well, I do anyway. Then you get to another place and it sounds wonderful, you know, so off you go. It's very easy to play when the sound is really good. If the sound is horrible, it's a nightmare, you know. What sort of things don't come out? I think small, intricate little things. You know, I think you have to think a bit slower and a bit bigger on a stage where basically nobody can see you. And when they see the screen, they see it and then they hear it. You know, the sync is just all over the place. I think you have to be very, very definite. You also have to play a little slower than you imagine. And I always think this is a problem with me, is I always try to please these ears. And actually, when I've listened to tapes back of a tour, I've gone, huh? you know, this is crazy. And it happens when you play in a band, which doesn't use, you know, metronomes and whatever. You start the tour off, Space Boogie with Jeff Beck. The beginning gig in Portland, Oregon. You know, and everybody could play it, and it was really nice, you know. New York, you know, like 40 gigs later. You know, it was unbelievable. To us, it was great. Yeah, you know, hey, we're having a good time here. You know, this is because we've been playing it every day. You know, and then suddenly you hear a tape a couple of years later, and you think we're mad. You know, and that's another reason why I've actually, in the last few tours, started to use a little metronome, just to remind me what the tempo really is, because it's amazing. You know how suddenly, God, it sounds slow tonight, you know. But you got to remember the guys out there, all the girls and guys out in the front. That's the first time they're going to hear it. It's a difficult one. It's a very subjective situation, and you can get into so many little circles, you know, after you play something 20 times in a row, you know. And then, of course, you come off tour. You have 3 months off, and you know, a bit more weight on. Then you start the first gig, and it's like, oh, you know, it's very exciting, but. Oh, I don't know. It's just a big circle thing. Yes. This chap is asking about the Who tour and how I managed to sort of. Well, the Who thing for me felt very comfortable to play in the situation. I'd obviously played with Pete for many years before that. But the way that the Who is conducted, it's like you're just left to your own devices. What was quite funny was, obviously I would do slightly different things to maybe Kenny would do and Keith did. Slightly more, maybe a little more jazzy, a little more polyrhythmic, you know. And I remember in the first few gigs, it was really funny because Pete's over here. He's on the Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young side. And John is in the Led Zeppelin side. And Roger's spending most of his evenings like this, you know. And I'm in the middle of it. I mean, it was hilarious. And we're playing away, you know, as we do, as one does. And suddenly I'd go, oh yeah, you know, do all this polyrhythmic shit. And John's like... And he looks across at Pete, and Pete, of course, has known this for 10 years. And Pete kills himself laughing, because he knows exactly what John is going through right now, because Pete went through that, you know. I'm oblivious, and Rogers, you know. And it's very funny. I will tell a couple of Who stories which were really funny. The times that Roger does this is usually when I'm making a lot of noise on these two cymbals, or how many cymbals it was. And I have his vocal mic in my monitors, which is a very sort of super duper complex setup, limiters. I mean, I spend all afternoon, you know, it's a little bit of reverb, you know. And he starts swinging the mic. And of course I can hear these cymbals going shh, 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 because the mic is coming by the drum kit. It's so funny, and really, you could hear it. Above all that racket, you could still hear it. It was amazing. And the other one, of course, was when this came unplugged. You know, and Roger and I both went... And it never came... I don't know where it went. I think it hit one of the xenon lights or something, you know. And sort of one very sort of embarrassed-looking roadie, sort of, you know, gaffer tape in his hands, running on, you know, or Bobby Pridden, you know. It's very funny, actually. But the whole situation, though, the Who situation, for me, I felt very comfortable playing in that band. It was like, I would say, the most comfortable I've felt since the Jeff Beck band. It was funny, it felt fine. I just played what I wanted to play. I listened to the tracks, you know, oh, that's great, I really like, you know, played that, and then did some of my own stuff. You know, it was, which is, I suppose, very lucky. It's great if you can get into a situation in a band where they really like what you do, and you like what they do, and you can keep them excited. night after night, you know, Carbondale, Illinois, and all these, you know, cities where you think, wow, you know, we're doing the same gig, and it's great if you can keep it alive, and, you know, somebody's nodding off and go, oh yeah, that's interesting, you know, it's good. Yes. I better play some more, I think. The music that you heard and are going to hear is all part of a new record that I'm writing for at the moment. It's never been played before outside of a studio. All the stuff I've recorded in the confines of the studio, I've never actually played this stuff live yet. So yeah, I'm still learning really how to play it in this situation. But I'm going to play one track which will have the Crises thing at the end. So it's a funny little track anyway. this chap is asking, how do I come out or develop a drum part? When somebody gives me a tune, and basically they, say, go on, get on with it, and you formulate a part. It really varies from song to song, artist to artist. Sometimes it's very natural. Sometimes you do something and you're going down the wrong path, so you have to rethink it. But generally, the stuff that I do, for the last 10 years, I suppose, the track's already done. It's had a drum machine on it going, whatever it's doing. And I come in and hear it, and they want something a bit different. And I say, well, all right, let's get a drum sound, let's get the can sounding real nice, and I'll just play. I'll just play anything, really. Sometimes I stop and just listen, maybe just playing one instrument, one drum, bass drum or something. And slowly it evolves. Sometimes it's not the right thing, sometimes it is. For example, something like Give Blood was very instant. That was just very instant. It was the Pete wrote this way, and of course it just really suits what I play. And that worked really well. On the other hand, Face to Face, I was trying to be too clever. I was trying to do something that was just too complex. Nobody said anything. It was just a sort of, you could sense it. Do you know what I mean? A sort of, I don't know, it's strange. And then I suddenly realized, what am I doing? Why am I trying to go this ridiculous thing that's so hard to play, when it really should be just very simple? And in the end, Face to Face was very, very simple. It is a bit hard to play. It's only because I make it a bit hard for myself. During the tour, I played it 3 different ways. One was right-handed, one was left-handed, and the other one was right-handed. All different ways. I'll show you. And of course it went on for hours, especially the live show. But again, after gig number 20, it was like, let's do it a bit faster, On this one that you just heard, now that is what I was trying to do, especially again, also with Protocol. I was trying to do stuff that's basically in 4/4, but featured, I suppose, a part of my drumming that people certainly point out is this way of like reversing things and playing funny beats and stuff, and it's really an extension of that. And it also started a little bit when I write. I use I write a machine part in a sequencer with some horrible little sounds on a module. But there's something about it that, is really cute, especially when you spend 2 days listening to that, and then you attempt to play it. And you think, oh no, I've written this thing and I can't play it. It's like you have to work out how to play it for the real drums, because it's so different, the real kit to the machine. What works on one doesn't work on the other, and vice versa. But it basically is an interesting rhythm, but it won't work. It doesn't really work unless all the other parts are there. But I'll sort of play it and slow it down. one of these, like, when that hits that, you go, it was like murder to work out. So it sort of went, and that's what happens, exactly that, from doing it at such a slow speed. And then a little bit of this stuck in, and it sounds like a rhythm, yeah. That's the mature version, you know. So 30 years of playing, you can do that one. That's a bit like in Streetwise, Protocol. And there's another one in Protocol. It starts off all, you know. Then you get this one. That to me, I find a very exciting part about playing drums. You know, not. I mean, I love to solo and all that, but the other thing is all these little rhythms, and try to make them sound as machine-like, but as comfortable as possible. And that's probably the hardest thing I spend at home when I'm writing something like this. It takes me just a little while to settle down, make sure all the beats are in the right place to make it sound comfortable. And it's usually a compromise between the drum machine part and this part, because I can't really do what it does, you know. He's talking about tempo. You start a song, and it's the wrong tempo, according to some members of the band. Yeah, I know. It's a very, very difficult situation, actually. One of the reasons why I got the little Doctor beat was exactly because of that reason. Yeah. It's a tricky one. You're playing in a band or you're backing an artist, and you rehearse in a rehearsal room with dead walls, and you have a tempo, and it works. You suddenly go out into the big studio, you know, with all the PA, and the first time you got lights, and all the tempos are wrong. You know, that's very valid. That's what sounds good in a horrible dry room might not transfer very well. You might have to speed things up or slow things down or whatever. But once you've really decided on a tempo, and somebody goes because they got up at a different time or whatever, and it's the wrong tempo, then I'm not very good at that. I find it very hard to change tempo once I'm in there. Sort of half of me wants to, but the rest won't. It's because I've had so many years of, especially from my father, about tempo. It's the most important thing is time. You're a drummer, you stay in time. But if you play with an orchestra, they can't believe how metronomic rhythm section players are. And they find it totally alien. They think you're a machine, and you actually say to them, well, no. I mean, you have to start doing deals with the string players, you know. If you play there, we'll play, do you know what I mean? Or you play there and we'll play when it gets afterwards, you know. And we'll meet in the middle. It's a very different type of music, different instruments. Some orchestras are more lazy than others. And it's something I think you have to look at the situation and see how important it is. How important is it that your ego tells you, you know, no, this is wrong, or no, this is a situation where actually it's quite valid, you know. But it's very difficult. I mean, I guess that's why we have rehearsals, to find out that, you know. But I agree with you. It's a difficult one, and it's part of being a musician or a hired hand that you're asked to do a job. You're being paid for it sometimes, and you've got to. It's a question of, well, I'm being paid to do what I do, and should I change what I do, and how much I should change it? It's a very fine line, and everybody finds out, I suppose, their own way, which suits their own character. And some good things can happen from that, because somebody has a different idea about it, and you go, actually, yeah, that's really cool. Just took a while to get into. But yeah, it's a difficult one. No real final answer for that. How do I approach Rudiments versus the kit and practice? Well, when I'm actually playing the drum kit, I don't really think anything about Rudiments. It's sort of, I guess it's in there. But when I'm practicing, the best things to practice, if you're in a hotel room with a practice pad or a towel or whatever, it's really the best thing to practice, because they're been specifically designed to be awkward little buggers. And it's like, we're really going to test you now. Whoever thought of them, right, we'll really, right, we'll put one there on that hand and then put one on that hand. That'll get them, And all these drummers going like, oh shit. But it's great, and I try to think of awkward ways of playing things to practice. It's and I've been doing quite a lot of this the last couple of days, just to try and sort of get back into all these things. And it is the first clinic, so it's not going to be special. But, you've got, doesn't really matter how you play with it. Play like that, or like that, or as long as it's the way you play, then fine. Pick a few rudiments: single stroke, double stroke, triple stroke, paradiddle. And the way I approach it, especially if it's cold and I've just got up and had some cornflakes and bananas and all that stuff, I think, right, okay, practice. The thing I don't do is go, right, like this. I don't do that. I actually go very slowly and go, and a very even tempo, even sticking, and then just change the rudiments. Really start like that, very comfortable, and then slowly, stop and then try a little bit faster. I think it's very important, though, to move through all the little rudiments. Try not to detect the difference. It's really hard. You always hear it, but that, to me, is the way to do it. And you can just, line them all up in your head. Right, I'm going to do that, and then just tell your hands to change. And that, I think, is for me anyway, is quite a nice way to warm up. So. And if you play like this, whatever way you do it, I'm working on this one at the moment. Alternate fingers. But it's really good. I think once you practice a little bit like that, it's good to have a change for the hands, to try something else, just to try and loosen them all up. That's the only thing I can... There's one device that I've sort of worked out, which I think is quite a good little practice one, and that is using 4 different things. Single stroke, double stroke, triple stroke, quadruple stroke, with a little couple of beats thrown in to make sure you end up on the right hand. So it'll be... etc. It's that last little, which is really hard. And I think you have to devise your own little system that works for you. And that's really all you can do, you know, just a little bit of that. And then you get onto that, and I think you really have to, in a way, just put that aside. And then just go instinctively play what comes out naturally, you know. If you're practicing on your own, then fine, you know, do paradiddles around the drum kit with your feet and all that stuff. But when you're playing, you know, just play. Just think very instinctive. That's what I try to do. I never think what I'm playing. I try not to listen to what I'm playing. I try to listen to everybody else. You know, let's put the set of big ears on. Try and hear everybody else. It's funny, when I've done monitor mixes for a certain band that I was in, myself, it was Mike Oldfield actually, myself and Mike, he insisted that we did the monitor mixes, because we did the album, we'd engineered it, and we gave everybody a little box with 10 faders on. And it was like, you know, drums, bass, guitar, keyboards, Fairlight, vocals, click, or whatever, you know, because it was Fairlight. And it's amazing. You go and listen to somebody's monitor mix, you spend all this time, you know, a little bit of that, yes, you know, phase reverse, you know, chuck that in. Nice sound in the wedge, you know, send it out to them. And then you go and check their monitors out, see how they're sounding, make sure nothing's gone, you know, it's all sounding like this. Somebody forgot to switch the amps on or whatever. And it's incredible. Drums, the bass player, right? Drums, guitar, vocal, Fairlight 1, Fairlight 2, keyboard, bass. Me! I can't hear myself. It's incredible, you know. It's a really difficult thing, and it's a lifelong situation of playing gigs, getting the sound right, getting the balance right, getting over this problem of why I can never hear myself, you know. But it's incredible. Me, you know. So you have to sort of grab it and take it down and say, look, you can hear yourself. There's your rig. Get a bit closer if you can't hear. You know, or do something, make the sound different so you can hear it. It's a difficult one. But it was quite interesting, you know, just sort of getting away from the kit and starting the gig by, you know, pushing a few buttons up and pissing off a whole road crew because they felt they should do it, you know. But it wasn't my fault, it was him that, you know. So it's like...